That sounds good to me. That's 432, the second episode of season 2, which means absolutely nothing. Hey, JJ.
Hey, Andy.
Hey, Michael.
How's it going?
I'm sipping some warm tea and being thankful the wind has finally stopped waking me up in the middle of the night, and also the progress on local fires has been gangbusters now that the wind is down. So all those things are good.
What's your tea of choice these days?
You know what? I had some decaf chai in the fridge from New Year's. We had a bunch of chai as a celebration thing. This is a kind of a weird tradition that we picked up that maybe someone else wants to steal. So I'm going to talk about it for a second. With young children, Michael.
I'm listening.
Looking at you. You may not want to celebrate at midnight, and even 9 p.m. is kind of late if you wanted to do New York. So we pick places where, their New Year's is during the day, and watch their live stream. And then we do like a little mini cultural exposure thing of eating foods. So we either make them or we go out and get some. So like we've done English tea, we've done Chinese food, and we have done, this year we did Indian food. So we had a bunch of chai.
Well, that's fun.
I like that.
I didn't think I disliked chai, but I didn't realize I liked chai so much.
I think chai is such a wide category for tea. You have to find one that hits the right balance of spice and sweet for what you like.
I definitely think there are chai likers that would agree with you.
I also think chai tea needs to be made in the British way, and you probably, with a bunch of milk. A proper pot of tea, a British person would say, involves milk, I think, right? I don't know how much, because I don't do that.
A spot of milk in your tea.
I would assume that would be something that they would assume goes in tea, but I don't know. I have no idea. I've only had chai a couple of times in my life.
I think the only debate in British teaing is whether or not there's sugar in there, right? I think milk is required. Yeah, sure. I mean, this version was meant to be made into lattes, and so we did that.
Okay.
I think my go-to these days is that big old Costco box of matcha tea bags.
The green one, or
the green box.
Okay, yeah. Isn't that caffeinated though?
Yeah, matcha's caffeinated.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So at nighttime, I have random Rooibos teas that we've been trying to drink through, or in the mornings sometimes breakfast tea, like English, Irish, Scottish.
Breakfasts of various sorts.
Yeah, black teas of various sorts. I have a pretty wide selection of teas available in the home. I like tea.
No, all good. I drink a lot of that Costco box green tea as well at work, especially. So I'm very familiar.
I think because I use the tea bag so many times, the caffeine situation is not very high by the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. That was a weird side note. Again, if you've been watching the California news, things are getting better, but not by a whole lot. And we're still thinking about everybody. So,
yeah, big hearts out to all those affected. Yeah, awful stuff out there.
Yep. We had a pod last week. You should go listen to it. Our Things of the Year. Everyone was existential this year, so I've started a good trend, bad trend. I don't know.
Time will tell.
Yeah. And we all agreed at the end of it I think we all have done recent trips. Italy for me. JJ, you did New York recently. Mm-hmm. Michael, you've been on the road a little bit.
Yeah, we were on the East Coast for Thanksgiving time too.
Mm-hmm. You took the little one onto an airplane. Did East Coast. Travel. Yeah, travel. It's fun. Someplace I would like to travel is the Midwest. I haven't done very much Midwest, and a good way to do that, I think this one was actually Pennsylvania, and they would not have said they're in the Midwest. They're on the Eastern Seaboard, but the summer version's in the Midwest. AGDQ, that was this week.
It was another good year, I would say, of speed running a bunch of popular games and a bunch of games that no one has ever heard of.
Yep.
And finding new and crazy ways to play those games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the ways of playing the games was the highlight this year, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to say it felt like they branched out in a bunch of different ways this year, which I thought was super cool. Like, there's one in specific that I saw that I think broke Contain a little bit, which is like really cool.
What is that? Broke Contain?
Oh, like, it's not just like people who are watching speedruns or who are online or who are watching Twitch. Like, I think some people saw the ska band playing Crazy Taxis live.
Oh yeah, because they all the music is still under copyright and you can't post any of it.
Yeah, it's like mega copyright strikeable. It's a bunch of like pop punk early 2000s era bands that are like very popular. That's the entire soundtrack to that game. So the speedrunner is playing on mute and has a live band playing the soundtrack that like stops when he stops.
That's amazing. I saw a picture of it and I have not seen that run yet, so
it's worth watching. I think the review is the band is, they did their best. But it's not really
you know what, it's something different. It's something they haven't put on stage before. I commend them.
Totally.
Totally. I know they like to switch it up and stuff like that. But I did miss Peanut Butter not being there. I'm sure there's a lot of factors that go into a dog not being at the event, but
yeah. I saw during one clip they had one of those giant crazy rhythm games set up. So I don't think it was DDR this year. It was one of those ones where you tap, but like I saw some dude going crazy wild on tapping.
Was it the Taiko no Jutsu game?
It didn't look like it was a drum, so it was like some kind of screen he was tapping on.
Oh.
Okay.
Taiko no Tatsujin. I can't remember.
Taiko no Tatsujin is the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's the drum game.
Jubeat was the one they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jubeat. Which is a weird game. It's like an arcade square tapper thing.
Yep, that guy was going so fast I don't think I could see his hands at some points.
You should, Michael, have you seen a Jubeat arcade system?
I just found the video, so I'm seeing a little clip of it here.
Yeah. So I think that Taiko no Tatsujin started out as an arcade game too, which is why it popped into my head.
It did. I mean, in the arcade, it's a giant taiko drum. And you hit it with sticks.
Well, it's a lot. It's two taikos, right? Next to each other?
One.
No?
Oh, I mean, I guess if there's a 2-player.
I thought it was maybe if it's 2-player.
Yeah.
I can remember in photos seeing two giant drums, so it must be because it's got 2 players.
Yeah, but my understanding is it's just one drum that you're hitting. It's like inside, outside.
Yeah. Someone should do that for a GDQ.
Nothing is new under the sun, I'm sure. They've been doing GDQs for a lot of years, so I assume someone tried it at some point.
I'm glad it's a tradition.
Probably look back and find it. Yeah.
I'm glad it's a tradition that's sticking. I don't know if we had any shout outs on particular runs or runners to go through, but it was worth the mention because the ads and stuff help, even now if you go back and watch on YouTube, it always helps.
Yeah. I will shout out Dr. Doot, who did an Elden Ring boss run showcase on the saxophone. He had an electric saxophone that he had configured to play the game on, and wound up doing some of the hardest bosses in the game, mostly damageless.
Wow.
Yeah, it's impressive, and all the more hilarious because all you really hear is the saxophone from time to time just going doot doot doot. And then super impressive when you layer on top of that the fact that because of the way that it's wired up, it's only single sequential input. So he can only hold down literally one button at a time, and so has to
it has
very carefully planned out. No, it doesn't have
rollover.
Yeah, I was going to just say that it doesn't have rollover. Yeah, that's crazy.
Which I guess makes sense. That's how a saxophone works.
I guess basically, yeah.
Woodwind,
you can press multiple keys at the same time. You only get one note.
Yeah, but you only get one note, right? Yeah.
So you think of it like that.
Okay,
interesting.
I guess. The finale was like a weird, crazy randomizer race, right? 4-person randomizer race.
Was it a map randomizer of Super Metroid?
Yeah.
So I was also
glad
go ahead.
They finally turned that tradition on its head a little bit of like, yeah, it's cool that we're still saving and killing the animals and it's nostalgic, but also like once in a while we can turn this on its head.
Yeah, and do something
very
a little
cool.
different.
One of the other things I saw, which I didn't watch all of, but I kind of wish I had, was they had a mystery game tournament.
Okay.
Which is a thing that happens.
The PS1 one?
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of that too.
This is a thing that happens more at fighting game tournaments, so that's where I'm aware of it from. But like, you sign up for a tournament, so like, at a fighting game tournament, right? They have like a whole bunch of different games, and then you sign up for an event that is mystery game tournament. And every round of the tournament is a different game. And it's weird, obscure games no one has heard of and no one has played. And if you beat your opponent, you move on. And it was cool. Like, they played a bunch of games I'd never heard of, like really weird, like platformers or like fighting games and stuff that were just like, they made this.
Yeah, it opened with like a weird auto runner I saw.
Yep. All kinds of weird stuff. And that was a cool tournament because, they had like, was it like 6 or 8 people or whatever, fighting it out to like, do a little mini bracket to pick a winner. That was cool. Those kinds of tournaments are also super fun to watch on like in fighting games because, you see a bunch of people like people who notionally are good at fighting games going like, what are the moves in real time? Because these games are so old, they don't have move lists. They don't tell you how to play. They don't give you any like update on how the controls work. You just sit down. And it's like, here you go. Here's a controller. Win.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds fun. Yeah. I'll probably go back after beating Astro Bot and watch the Astro Bot speedrun, but I don't want spoilers. I'm having a good time exploring that game slowly with the kids.
Yeah, I don't think you would you'd want to do that. It's going to ruin it for you.
Yeah, I mean, probably not, but also like the surprise of the worlds in that game and what they're doing is kind of fun. Yeah, cool. Well, I guess speaking of games, I've been playing Astro Bot. That's the news for me. Since the Christmas time almost. I think right before we rocked off the podcast and took a little break there. We made it a little bit of a family fun time situation. Once a week, we'll all sit down and each one of us will play a little bit and watch as we explore Astro Bot, which is a really, 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 really good platformer, you guys. So fun. I imagine
game of living up to its game of the year crown.
I think if I had to pick like a top game that wasn't Balatro because of what Balatro did for me last year, it would definitely be that. It makes a lot of sense. I think the game of the year comes from the crazy expansion that they did to the concept of the original game. The original game being that little couple-hour demo, basically, right? And them sticking to their guns about, like, you're gonna do stuff on this controller that no one else is doing because we're the only ones paying for people to do it.
Yep.
It's still light and enjoyable for everybody to play. There's times when I have to take over the controller because they can't make a jump, but the jump for someone practiced at making the jump is not impossible.
Right.
It probably reminds me of how a lot of people felt when Mario Odyssey came out, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, platforming!" And I don't know if the PlayStation's had that. I'm not like enough in on the current PlayStation environment, but I feel like the PlayStation hasn't had that in such a long time. Or at least in games that would interest me. So, I mean, they definitely get all the way in there on the Mario likeness type stuff. There's boss battles at the end of some of the levels. The way that the game is laid out is very fun. The idea of going around to different planets and things like that. And the boss levels do their best to make you think that you're like in for the three pattern structure, and then they like change it up and you go, wow, that's really frustrating, but fun at the same time. I mean, there's like wacky stuff they can do with this. There was a full-on, not to spoil too much, but like the kids didn't really understand and know, but they thought it was cute and funny. But I'm sitting there going, oh my God, they made a whole full-on hour-long ape escape level in this game.
Nice.
It's just ape escape, which was hilarious to me. As they're trying to figure out how to use the little radar, and they're like chasing monkeys around blocks, and they're like, hey, he won't stop. Like, yeah, I know. Well, welcome to 1993.
Yeah, you
pretty good.
Gotta keep going, right?
Astro Bot's fun. Astro Bot's a lot of fun. But I'm not the only one that's been playing some games. I've heard. Michael?
No. So I fired up just this past weekend Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Oh, well, so now we got to compare platformers, huh?
Yeah, I guess we could do that. This is so I love a good Prince of Persia game. I think I have played through just about all the games in the series. At least going back to that original trilogy on PC. So I've played a fair number, and this one is it's a good entry into the series. It leans, I think, a little more heavily into being a Metroidvania than just a pure platformer. The Prince of Persia games, I don't know how many of them you guys have played in the past, but the Prince of Persia games, I think, almost formulaically in the past were kind of sequential level platformers.
That's what I remember of Prince of Persia, is like the Uncharted version of like a platformer where they didn't quite have so much of the cutscene situation, but it was still kind of like a platforming Tomb Raider, like where it was only about the jumping per level kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, it was.
That's my memory of Prince of Persia.
I think that's a good description of some of those earlier games. And in a bit of a Metroidvania fashion, you would learn skills as you went, and they would incorporate the skills into ever more complicated puzzles. But the game was always moving you linearly forward, right? You were never really backtracking.
I think this is one of those areas that Astro Bot really changed that formula. It's like you're going to do some of the same motions in each level, but the idea of them just keep piling on powers and powers and powers, like there's only one or two gimmicks per level. You gain a new power, you gain it right then, and they show you how to use it, and then kind of it's over. You don't keep gaining more and more and more and more. Like
Sure.
once you leave the level, that power's gone.
And that
more like a Odyssey situation.
Yeah, that feels a little more family friendly too. You're not having to remember, ever increasing numbers of button combinations for, I learned this attack now and this move and that move, and I have to chain them all together to be able to get past this next part. But yeah, so this is the first Prince of Persia game that I know of that has introduced a map with all of the typical Metroid style map icons. So you can make notes on your map of areas that you want to come back to, and there are almost from the get-go areas that you can see that you cannot get to because they're too high or they're behind a type of door that you haven't figured out how to open yet. So there's definitely going to be some backtracking going on as you unlock more abilities. But it's still it lets you pick your difficulty from the front. And so I just picked normal difficulty, having played some Prince of Persia before. And it stays true to Prince of Persia games in one, at least notable to me, aspect so far. And that is that the combat, even on normal difficulty, can be very punishing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you definitely have to learn enemies' patterns. And you can't, it's not really a game that will let you just go totally on offense and burn your way through things. You do have to do some defending and some parrying and kind of there's a back and forth to fights that some games don't bother to introduce, I think. And so very early on, I ran into one particular enemy where I wiped 3 or 4 times before I figured out the pattern and when to jump and when to dodge. But it still felt like a Prince of Persia game in that aspect.
I wonder how much they cribbed from like a Jedi Survivor situation. I wonder. Sounds a lot more like that.
Yeah, it does sound like what I know you guys have described from playing those games.
From what I remember about back when people on video game podcasts were talking about this game, the combat gets pretty intricate as you go along. But I don't know. It's like it's a Metroidvania, so it's not really anything like the old Prince of Persia stuff. So I don't know how applicable the combat there was to what this is.
Yeah, we'll see. I know one thing that they did introduce, and this is kind of nice, is pretty early on you get to a rest area, which I think is going to wind up being kind of like a home base that you keep coming back to. But one of the characters that you can interact with there is basically like a weapons master, and you can go through tutorials for each of the different move sets and learn sort of, this is how this move works and how you can use it in combination with other moves. And it does a good job of explaining to you not only how each of the moves that you have discovered works, but how to best use it. Like, when do you want to employ this block, or when do you want to knock an enemy up into the air? And these are the kind of enemies that you can't knock into the air, and what should you do instead?
Sounds it sounds like a definite advancement, not leaving the game kind of in classic mode. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to gauge
all the stuff I heard, like the people that played it, like it's shown up on a bunch of Game of the Year lists and stuff from people. So, it's by all accounts very good.
Yes.
This is the game that, like, I feel Ubisoft really shot themselves in the foot by making it Epic Store exclusive on the PC, so that, like, no one on the PC played it. And then when they got around 6 months later to releasing it on Steam, it was like a big meh because, like, Call of Duty was out.
Yeah, I feel like that hurt.
When was the last? I don't know these Prince of Persia games. Prince of Persia Escape. What is that? I don't know that one.
I don't think there has been a like console level, big Prince of Persia release for many, many years.
I remember the Forgotten Sands release because that was the sequel to the last one that I played, and I never played Forgotten Sands.
Yeah, but that was like, when was that, Andy? Like,
that was 15 years ago, dude.
Yeah, that may have been the most recent one.
Well, then I was trying to figure out what these other games, Prince of Persia Escape and the Dagger of Time, are those. Those aren't even remakes.
Those were. I think one of those might have been the mobile game.
Yeah. So I don't know how this didn't end up such a bigger deal, you know?
I mean, they've tried to reboot those series a couple of times, right? Or that's the series. So maybe one of those or both of those are that. But, I mean, this is a 2D Metroidvania. That's a very different kind of thing than those 3D action games. So I think it's an entirely new genre direction for this thing. But it seems like the combat is still pretty legit, right? If Michael is saying it's hard and this is the beginning-ish, like.
Yeah, so I haven't really I haven't even unlocked any of what I assume are the time powers, because that's a core tenet of Prince of Persia games. So far, I basically just have the basic combat, and a couple of additional special moves where you can charge power and store it. But it's definitely going to get more intricate from here. But it looks really good. It plays really smoothly. Like nothing about it feels clunky. You definitely feel very light as a character.
I think the comparisons I saw were Hollow Knight, if y'all have played that one.
Hollow Knight.
Interesting. I have not played Hollow Knight, but what it made me think of off the bat was Ori.
Ooh, that's
Ori's
probably a better
scroller, though, right?
This is a side scroller, Andrew.
It is. Yeah.
Yes.
Why did I picture a 3D platformer this whole time?
Because all the other ones are that, and I told you you weren't listening to me like 2 minutes ago when I said this is a side-scrolling Metroidvania.
I don't know why. I'm so sorry. I was looking at like a bunch of older Prince of Persia stuff when you were saying it, and
I was trying to figure out what you weren't comprehending about the difference here. But this is like a different thing.
I was stuck on this older Prince of Persia games. I was like flipping through all of them, and I was like, "This is so crazy."
Yeah, so it goes. Okay. It definitely goes back way, all the way to the beginning of the 80s and early 90s Prince of Persia, because those I think were side scroller.
Yeah, the like really old Atari ones and stuff were.
Yeah, because they did a remake of the first game.
I think the original Prince of Persia got one of those like gold box kind of treatments with a bunch of behind the scenes and how it got made stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. It doesn't even. You can look at screenshots and still not be able to tell it's a 2D platformer.
Yeah, the screenshots make it look like it could be, 2.5 or even 3 in some of the shots.
Well, because he's facing the camera in a lot of them, or facing away from the camera in a lot of them, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's still a 3D thing. No wonder I didn't pick up on this.
The characters are 3D rendered, I think, right? It's just
100%.
You're moving left and right mostly.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so sorry. I was just so focused on trying to figure out how they had dropped the ball on a game that's been 15 years in the making.
So now you have to change your mind from how they dropped the ball to how they dropped the ball in a different way by not showing people this awesome game.
Well, they're remaking Sands of Time, so that'll save them.
I'll press X to doubt. Does that still play? Do kids know that one?
Maybe.
More importantly, are any of those kids listening to us?
No. They should, though. They would learn something. Or maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. Probably not. All right. Well, are you also playing a 2D platformer, JJ? Because I'll pay a lot more attention.
Nope, you can tune right back out.
I'm not. I was
I'm
so
kidding.
invested in the like history because it's like, oh my god, it has been 2000. It has been 16 years since I have touched a Prince of Persia game, and I couldn't believe it. So I fell down a rabbit. You should never. This is why we don't do research, because I fell down that rabbit hole so hard.
Yeah. No, but I did play an older game this break. A kind person gifted me a game over the holidays.
Who would do such a thing?
Who could say who would do such a thing? And so I was like, hey, I liked this series. I played some of these other ones. I'm going to fire up Valkyria Chronicles 4.
Heck yeah, bro.
All right.
Now, you might ask, hey, why 4? Did you play 1, 2, and 3? And
I know the answer to this. Does Michael know the answer to this?
I don't believe I do.
Oh, this is a good story.
Then I'll be like, yeah, I did play Valkyria Chronicles 1.
So
and then
did
you're like, wait a minute, what about 2 and 3? And then you'll be like, where are those ones? And the answer is on the PSP.
Oh, okay.
They're on. Well, they are available
on the PSP.
You cannot buy 2 and 3 currently.
I don't think they're for sale. Did they get remade on PS4 or something?
Maybe not.
I don't think I saw that.
Maybe I had X. Yeah. Okay.
So
well, anyway, they also are not being stuck on the PSP. We should throw out there. They were also not well reviewed.
Yeah, those didn't do so hot. And then they released Valkyria Chronicles 4, where they were like, all right, look, you guys didn't like what we were doing in 2 and 3. What if we do Valkyria Chronicles 1 again?
But it's a sequel.
But it's also the same story from a different perspective.
Okay.
It's a sequel to the first game, Michael. Not a sequel to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's actually just a retelling of the story from the first game from a different perspective. So it's like a side path during the same conflict.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's like this was a different front in the war, kind of thing, basically. This game is anime Europe at war, basically.
Yeah, it's like if everyone took Miyazaki's ideas and turned them into a weird war anime.
And like, the evil empire invades our peace-loving and democratic home. We have to take up arms and defend our country, right?
Everything looks vaguely like Italy.
Or vaguely like Eastern Europe, or vaguely like Russia, or vaguely like, the map looks like Europe, but none of these names are names you've heard of. And then, then a whole war happens. But this has one of the coolest like battle systems I've seen in any game. I don't know why more games didn't do something like this.
I don't know either. It's fascinating to me.
Because it's ostensibly a turn-based game, right? Where you have your units, the enemy has their units. You can, you got your machine gunners, you got your scouts with rifles, you got your bazooka guys, you got your tanks, and you can move them around in a map. But when you select your person to move them,
tactics style, Michael.
Yeah, okay. Like top down, you have what looks like a map of a battlefield, with like blocks showing you where you can and can't go, and a little bit of fog of war out there if you can't see around certain corners and things like that. Lines of sight being drawn, stuff like that. And then when you select your person, it zooms down into a 3D space. You're behind the back of the character, and you have 3D controls.
Okay.
And you can run them around in a 3D space, and then you get your you have like a little bar on the bottom that shows how much distance you can cover. So like as you're running around, you're depleting your bar, and then you get to take one, action, whether it's throw a grenade or shoot your gun X times or use a healing item or whatever. And then that uses your activation for the turn. And then you get to, take more actions or not, depending on various things. But, like you're aiming in 3D space, but you only get this top-down view of where all the units are and where they're aimed and stuff. It's a really interesting, very abusable system. I don't remember, Andrew. Did you play that first game all the way through, or parts of it?
I can't remember.
We're reaching back into the long ago for sure.
I mean,
it was a PS3 game.
Yeah.
Early PS3, I think.
Early, yeah. I can't. I really can't remember how much of it I finished. I do love the memories of the battle system, though.
It is abusable in the same way. I remembered the ways that game was abusable, and you can abuse this one. And
your ancient knowledge.
They do switch it up enough that you can't just do the thing, the most cheesiest thing that you used to be able to do in that game. But there are new cheesy things you can do, so don't worry. They helped you out.
There was a lot of geometry manipulation you used to be able to do.
Yeah, you totally can still do stuff like that. Like
this sandbag is impenetrable fortress.
or like, the I can see around this corner and you can't kind of thing. I can shoot around it, but you're not able to. Or my character has if because you can also like save in between turns and stuff like that. If you have a character who has a ranged attack that can shoot like in an arc or whatever, if they're there, you do less damage firing into Fog of War, which is one of the things that they changed from the previous games, I think. So that kind of balances some of that crap about. But if you just run a person forward enough to reveal them and then use your other person and bomb the crap out of them, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't remember this game or the previous game having as many varieties of units. There's like a ton as you go through this game, like a ton of varieties of units. There's, not just like machine gun people and rifle, like scout shot, like 3-shot rifle kind of guys. You have anti-tank. You have grenadiers specifically who like have these like big arcing like mortars, essentially mobile mortars.
Do they still have the sounds on all the different guns? The like anime word sound things?
A little bit. Yeah, it's not as prevalent as it was in the first one, but like if you walk up next to the tanks, it still has the little like rumble and
rumble, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The like the style of this game just it oozes out of all the time. Like almost everything is vignetted in like a old style.
It looks supposed to look like old photographs.
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
And the the narration is coming from the main character of the story, who's a tank commander, and you're getting like his memories of these battles or whatever. And so it's a even in the cutscenes and stuff, it's all vignetted like this. So it's like, back remember when these things happened, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great. There's a ton of like really busted upgrades for the tank. They added an APC in this one, which is really fun because the APC is armored like the tank, but it's like not as good armored as the tank. So you got to be way more careful that you don't show basically the back. All the tanks in this game have like a really critical design flaw, honestly, where like there's a big blue glowing radiator somewhere on them. You shoot that thing, they're gonna die immediately.
Shocker.
Okay.
But the APC has that too. And if they shoot that, it is super duper dead. Like in addition to the fact that because it's an APC, they could still shoot it down. But you get to like load all your people up and move them in the APC without having to spend their turns, right?
What happens if the APC dies with the people in it? Do they have an answer to that?
Those people are dead.
Okay.
Okay then.
Be careful is the answer. They're not dead. They get evacuated. So like you don't lose people permanently in this game. You can lose people permanently if you leave them dead on the battlefield for like a certain number of turns. They die and then you can't use them again. there are tons of recruits in the game. That's not really an issue. But it automatically evacuates them along with the APC driver if the APC blows up. Which is nice for them to do that. They could have made you run out there and rescue all 7 of them or whatever. But, you know, the system they have to prevent abuse is like each time you activate the same character, they have less and less movement range, right? So it's like after 3 activations or whatever, they're moving like, you know, 2 steps, right?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't count when you're in the APC. So drive the APC halfway across the map, let the person with the most movement range out. They run the other half of the way, right? You can, cheese strats still abound for that kind of stuff, which is fun, figuring that kind of stuff out.
I mean, that's that old school dumping everyone in the 40K transports and running them across.
Totally, right? It's a perfectly valid tactic there, and it works here just as well. So, but I will say they vary the mission types and the sort of things up enough that you can't just always do that. You know, there's a boss enemy or there's a specific objective you have to do, stuff like that, where it's not just feasible to just run straight across the map. So yeah, overall it was really fun. Some of the advancements in this game made me wonder, like, hey, wouldn't those guys on the other front have wanted some of this? Like, could you guys have sent some of these over there? But it was cool. At some point, you get access to like a battleship, Andrew. It's like
I want that.
You can call in bombardments and like radar scans and stuff like that, which are extremely useful.
Oh man, I think I have this game. I'm pretty sure I do. I bought it at one point and thought I'll eventually play that. I loved the first one.
Yeah, you should install it. It's fun.
This is what this is why I want to hear these things. Let's see. Steam Deck?
It's pretty old. I don't know. I played it with a controller, so I know the controller works well. So there shouldn't be an issue from that perspective.
Yeah. We'll see. Speaking of controllers, do you think the Switch 2 will have stick drift in its controller? It's time to join the throngs of people probably discussing a Switch 2. We have no idea if they are, because it's Tuesday. But supposedly on Thursday, while you're listening to this, there will be a Switch 2 discussion happening? Michael?
I mean, no one knows 100%, but there is some strong indicators that Thursday of this week will be the day for official Switch 2 news. And correspondingly, there have been a large number of leaks and rumors leading up to it.
Flying around the internet?
Yeah, the air is thick with them.
I would still love to put in our suggestion that the Swiitch is the answer to how to fit the 2 in there.
You heard it here first.
I really think the Wii motif is played out, though. They don't want to run the risk that people think this is a Wii U situation,
Oh. I guess.
Probably good to distance themselves from that at this point.
I think they've distanced themselves from the Wii U quite a bit at this point. The Switch is 7 years old now?
Yeah, it is. But I think I don't know, like, is making the S into a 2 better,
Yes. Yeah, the S into a 2 is better, probably.
Well, then do you run into trouble with people calling it Twitch?
Oh, no.
Too Switch, too furious.
Oh, no. I would guess
nostalgia for that time period is back,
Yeah. I would guess they did a lot of work on those Joy-Cons, trying to get them not to have drift. They said there's some sort of new button coming to the Joy-Cons also.
Yeah, that's the speculation. Man, the wildest thing, I did we talk about this already? I don't remember. Did you see that, like, people at the CES just straight up had, like, here's our Switch 2 accessories.
Oh, no, I did not.
No. What?
Yeah, dude, go look on the internet. Like, accessory manufacturers were like, oh yeah, here's a case for the next Switch. here's like Joy-Con grips and stuff. They're just showing them. Like, oh yeah,
what?
This fits on the next Nintendo console.
I guess that doesn't violate the "we're going to give you one, but you can't show it to anyone" clause.
No, because they're supposed to keep all that stuff under wraps.
It's out there, and it's been out there for weeks, Andrew. Like, this stuff is like people got specs from people in China, and they're just making stuff or something. Like, there's no way Nintendo was like, this is approved.
Yeah, no way. I mean, Hori and all those other companies always keep this stuff pretty well under wraps. That's surprising to hear.
Yeah, so I don't know what the deal is, but that's how people found out that there's a extra button, because the like Joy-Con cases and grips and stuff had space for a button that no one had seen before.
I saw some pictures of the Joy-Cons, and they look even thinner and smaller, and my hand cramp already has begun.
Already feel the pain.
There was also
just like, why? It's okay for it to be thicker.
There was also some speculation that you could take the Joy-Cons and stand them on end and use it as like an optical mouse.
Yeah, I saw that rumor.
So like, you know, the thin end that connects to the console, set that facing down on the ground and hold it like, you know, vertically like that. And then that would be a mouse, because someone thinks that there's an optical sensor on the inside somehow.
Okay. I mean,
yeah, that one just seemed weird to me, because why?
Yeah. I mean, if you're sitting on the couch playing your Switch, are you going to like get your mouse pad next to you? You use your leg? Like, I don't know. It's a very strange, confusing thing to me.
What would you need a mouse for that you couldn't already do with the Joy-Con?
Playing Civ 7.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
It's, you know, I don't know. They got to do something to make it kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, the joke I saw from someone who is a known video game developer was that the thing that they could do to make it interesting is have a new graphics, you know, chip with actual good drivers.
Yeah.
And the speculation is that this is some NVIDIA-based SoC solution, which they thought would be a step up from the previous one in the current Switch. So, which again, who knows? Because Nintendo doesn't announce anything.
Nope, not until it's time to announce it.
They'll say something. Sounds very likely.
Are they gonna?
It's happening.
So, okay. Speculation time.
Okay.
Are they gonna do the Sega Saturn, wave the magic wand, and it's out today?
No,
that's not
Christmas.
Nintendo style.
Also, we would have seen like
major leaks.
Yeah, stuff would
be like, what are these giant Nintendo boxes doing at Target?
Yeah. Right. Okay, so they don't do that. Andrew, you think it's coming? They're talking about it January, and they're releasing it in Christmas.
Well, hold on. The Christmas season starts in like October. My reasoning for it starts in like October. Most if they're gonna sell stuff for like they want good Christmas sales, you start September, October for the hype to build and for the stock to just keep selling through, and a huge push in December, because you know the kids see it in late September, early October, hits shelves, then they tell the parents they want it, and people start buying them in November, December. So that's usually the target time for like big sales stuff if you're trying to target that time of year. And I think off the top of my head, maybe it's just the Switch Lite that had one of those releases recently, but I thought they had generally targeted that time of year for those types of releases.
The original Switch released in March.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm way off then, I guess.
And I would probably make a counterpoint to your speculation that they will release it earlier in the year for supply reasons. They want to get past that initial crazy burst of everyone who's like, I need to have one, and then resupply in time for the Christmas season for everyone who's heard all the hype about it and then decides, hey, I want one of these, or I want to get my kid one of these, and it would be a good Christmas present.
Can I counterpoint you?
Sure, go for it.
My memory is not too bad, okay, in general. I know what Nintendo likes to do. OLED Switch release, October 8th. Switch Lite, September 20th. Switch, March. But remember, the Switch is in desperation mode. We've got to get a system out because the Wii U sucks.
Sure, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wii U release, November. Wii release, November. I can keep going if you want.
No, I get the trend.
The difference is there's no Reggie. You know? What if he was the driving force for that? I don't know why that would be the case.
No, Iwata was around for the Wii and
Wii and Wii U, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So Reggie's the only one that screwed up the Switch release.
I think my guess is like April. I think that's what I would say. I think if you're going to release it at the end of the year, why would you start showing it now? You wait and you don't show it until summer.
I believe you guys are more on the nose with it. I just know what Nintendo has liked to do.
Andy shows the preponderance of evidence, which is very fair and valid.
JJ and I scoff in the face of evidence.
I would definitely not believe that it's coming out in the next 3 months.
So if it comes out before April, you will be stunned?
I would be shocked if it comes out before March.
I think that's
before March would be really soon. Yeah, I think that's fair.
If it comes out in April, I will still be surprised. If it comes out in June when school lets out, I would nod my head. And if it came out in their normal time frame, I would pump my fist.
And you would tell us that you told you so.
Yeah, but the longer you guys talk about it, the more like I feel like I'm going to be wrong. It is a long time if they are announcing it on Thursday. Although, you know, there's been a lot of this
are a thing too, right? Like the quarter ends in March or whatever. So
yeah. So why would
like
you release it in April if your quarter ended in March?
Well, when is their fiscal year?
They could be trying to goose it, you know? It's just like show it, get this big bump in profits or, you know, margins or stock or something. I don't know. I ain't no businessman.
Could be. Well, hey, I mean, if they release it that early, then might be able to get one by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's the joke. Is like, oh, they release it. Okay, well, let's let all the scalpers go at it. Like, no rush. Yeah. They'll keep making these things for 7 years, as we saw.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think the more important thing than all this is like, okay, cool. It's a new Switch and a more powerful and better Switch. I think we all agree that the hardware is kind of on the original is kind of getting old.
I think I have to eat crow a little bit, whether or not they release it in September, October. I thought there was no way that it would have the same cartridge slot, or at least use the same cartridge system. And I thought they might even push towards.
There's no guarantee
digital only.
There's no guarantee that they do, right? Because that could just be for backwards compatibility.
They said it's backwards compatible. Oh, you think that they're just going to have the slot so you can use your Switch 1 games, but the Switch 2 games won't work that way?
It could be. We don't know.
I feel like with all the takedown orders they put out, it's pretty clear they're going to try to keep that system going for a little while longer.
That's what I would think, but there's no proof. Like, there's no way. It's very possible that we're wrong, right?
I really thought they would give up on it when they basically said, we can't fix this, like, flaw, you know?
Leave it to Nintendo to learn someone else's lesson and not any of their own, right? All the backwards compatibility issues that Xbox and PlayStation have had, trying to figure out from console to console what is and isn't backwards compatible.
That's not the problem. It's the ability to crack the games day one, no problem.
No, I
Because
get
of
that.
the flaw in the chip.
Yeah.
I think like the other thing I'm interested in is, what's the state of games releasing going to be? Yeah, games are backwards compatible, but like, are they going to be releasing Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions of a bunch of games? Is there going to be paid upgrades? Is that, that was a thing for a while, right? Like, how is any of that stuff going to go?
Can't they just run the games better?
Who knows? We don't know how this works, right? This is my point. Maybe.
I really want to have somebody get a hold of one and be like, and the slowdown on this situation is good. Oh, I finally did hit slowdown in Echoes of Wisdom, and it stunned me. I was like, whoa.
Did you finally place enough monsters at the same time that it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the game chugged for a second. I was like, whoa. What was that?
Yeah, dude. It's like I said, it's not noticeable until it is. And then all of a sudden you're like, what? Oh, God.
There it is.
Yeah, that was a shocker because it came out of nowhere. It had not occurred at all. And then all of a sudden it occurred fast.
All right, a quick digression. How's Echoes of Wisdom? How are you enjoying it? What's going on?
Oh, I'm still having a good time. I'm playing slowly. I'm splitting the time between Astro with the kidlets and, we're trying to do some more board gaming and stuff like that. So I have not, I'm still midway through finishing off my diet of items from last year. We call it my diet, right? From the media diet, so to speak. So I ended up going through my list and it was like 20 games, 110 movies, 63 seasons of television, and like 30 books. So some of those seasons weren't quite done. I'm trying to finish those off, and then I want to like readjust my time usage and put games back in the forefront a little bit more than last year. So I'm trying to bully my way through the last of these TV shows from last year before I kind of set that part of it aside.
Okay.
Speaking of TV shows, thank you for that recommendation of Delicious in Dungeon. I've been watching a little bit of that. It's been fun.
Oh my God. What a fun show. I binged that so easily. Would you, English or Japanese? What did you settle on?
I've been watching the Japanese.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems to work, but yeah, it's been fun. Like I said, I'm like maybe halfway through or a little past halfway.
Did you get to the very clear mid-season point? The very jarring mid-season episode?
There was a 3-parter.
Oh. Yeah. Did you get past the 3-parter?
I haven't gone to the episode after that 3-parter.
Okay. The episode I'm talking about is the next one.
Okay, well, I'll let you know.
Where you're like, oh, I guess we've had the mid-season finale. The 3-parter is good, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's
very fun show.
See that coming?
Nope, I did not.
Wait till you meet some of those characters again.
I'm nodding sagely like I know what you're talking about. Yes, definitely.
That show gets way off the rails and still remembers what makes it fun at the same time. And that's what I really like about it at the end.
Really silly recipes is what makes it fun. So I think we're good.
Don't worry. They never lose sight of it.
Excellent.
Which I think is good news. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I derailed this completely. I don't know where we were.
It's okay. I think we can't make too many Switch 2 predictions without kind of... Because my prediction is that at the end of any sort of Switch 2 announcement, there will still be 700 questions.
Yeah, that feels likely.
But it seems pretty clearly that this is going to be a system overhaul, but more of a PlayStation 4 to 5 situation than a PlayStation, or a Wii to Switch situation, I guess.
Yeah, I think the new chip and the new card is quite a bit like, I'm thinking of it like a graphics card, but there's a new CPU. The whole new thing is quite a bit more powerful, but it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
But this thing ain't doing PS5 graphics, like, to be fully clear, right?
I wouldn't think so. I'm just trying to give us some sort of hardware to hardware peering inside the Nintendo mindset.
I think the thing that people, again, more rumors that people are saying is that, this thing maybe is like PS4 level hardware, kind of.
That'd be a pretty big upgrade.
But the difference is that because it's an NVIDIA chip, they will have access to some of the machine learning, DLSS, DLAA type stuff that PCs and other NVIDIA cards get. I don't know that they'll be doing, our GeForce RTX 50 series kind of stuff,
I don't know. I was watching that.
But
I was watching that 50 series thing, and the 50 series frame generation really seems to come from the aspect of the cards that is not brute force power, but more like the machine learning thing of like, hey, this DLSS just sort of guesses 30x or 40x extra frames in here based on its learning situation. And
we're dancing around the word AI, but NVIDIA absolutely loves that word. And that's like the stuff that's driving a lot of that.
But it's not AI, though.
I know.
You're preaching to the choir here, Andy.
But it's not going to be able to do that kind of stuff because that kind of hardware isn't in this chipset. But it does have access to some of that hardware. And therefore,
that's the
people
thing
are assuming that it's like, you can output at 4K now where you couldn't output at 4K before. Like, yeah, it's not running at 4K, but you're getting 4K where you didn't previously.
Right.
Like Mario in 4K sounds pretty good to me.
I mean, Mario in 2K, it would be fine.
Sure.
Honestly.
I
don't need it pushed too much. That Astro Bot game is beautiful in a way, but the graphics are very simple. It's not necessarily the graphics. It's the ability to do a lot without it being like, if you could just upscale Echoes of Wisdom a tiny bit from where it's at and just have it run without anyone ever talking about how it runs again, even if it's locked at 40 or 50 frames, you know what? It's like, forget even if it makes it to 60, but if it could run locked, I think they would make inroads a lot, even if it's not 4K. I also wonder if they'll make a huge push to be like, okay, and if it plugs into the dock, things change a lot more than they did before.
I feel like we might get more answers to this kind of thing on Thursday, because one of the things that I have seen floated around a couple of places is that this will be, if we get an announcement, that it will be hardware focused.
All right. Well, we've run way over, and we didn't even talk about the COTC changeover that's coming. So prepare yourselves for Switch 2 news. And let us know how much we got right or wrong. And we'll talk about it next week, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's right.
That sounds fun to me. Anyway, I hope people are right. And where could they let us know if we got anything right, especially the release date? That's going to be fun.
They can shoot us a note at podcast@weweregamers.com. Let us know your predictions for the Switch 2, whether it's hardware or launch titles or games you want to see made for it. How bad the Joy-Con drift will be.
Oh, God. Why did you do it?
You just inflicted so much psychic damage on me just there when you said that.
I'm trying to
reverse jinx it, guys.